Chapter 678. Elvis chuckled and cupped Gu Mingming's little face with both hands. If time could be reversed and I could return to that long period of torture, I would choose to endure more hardships and then use an even stronger version of myself to welcome you, protect you and take care of you. Gu Mingming lowered her eyes. I would rather you be a little weaker and suffer less. Elvis kissed Gu Mingming's little face. If I was a little weaker, I might not have met you alive. Silly boy. Gu Mingming looked up, her eyes filled with heartache. Elvis pinched her little nose. All right, let's not talk about me. Let's think about Cole's matter first. That fellow, we have to guard against him. Leah nodded and added, the injured are almost fully recovered. We can't keep staying here and wait for Cole to make his move. If he doesn't make any moves in 3 days, we can only continue our journey to St. Nazaire. Gu Mingming nodded. She thought for a moment. Maybe I should cooperate with Cole's script. Leah glanced sideways at Gu Mingming. His expression was rather stern. What do you want to do? Gu Mingming chuckled. She patted Lee's shoulder. Don't be nervous. I won't mess around like before. Now, I'm an old demon with a mental age of 1,000 years. Leah was tickled by Gu Mingming's words. He tapped her little head. Tell me your plan. We'll go over it. Gu Mingming nodded and told him what she was thinking about. The more Leah and Elvis listened, the tighter their brows furrowed. In the end, Elvis clenched his fists so tightly that cracking sounds could be heard. He furrowed his brows and said, I think it's better for me to kill Burke directly and return to St. Nazaire. It's better for me to wait for Cole to strike. Leah nodded. I agree. Gu Mingming facepalmed. How are you going to explain to Xianhu if you kill Burke? Moreover, just like what Leah said, Burke is just a bait thrown out by Cole. He's an innocent person being used. Why take someone's life? The two males understood Gu Mingming too well. They could tell from her expression that she had already made up her mind. Sigh. Other than sighing, Elvis and Leah could only repeat the scenario over and over again, striving to ensure that nothing went wrong. That night, when Board brought Xianhu and his brothers back for dinner, Xianhu was covered in wounds again. Gu Mingming hugged Xianhu in her arms and comforted him while listening to him talk about his gains today. Her heart ached for him as she hugged his little face and kissed it. Burke, for your training tomorrow, can you bring me along? Gu Mingming turned around and requested Burke. Burke was taken aback and instinctively looked at Elvis and Leah. Elvis and Leah turned their heads to one side, showing a tacit agreement. Burke could not control the expression on his face. He thought that training Xianhu was the most he could do for Gu Mingming. Dinner time was the happiest and most anticipated time for him, but he never thought that he would have the opportunity to get closer to her. It was like a dream. Gu Mingming watched as Burke's expression kept changing, almost as fast as the changing faces of Sichuan operas. She cleared her throat and asked, Is it inconvenient? Chapter 679. Realizing that he had answered too quickly, Burke cleared his throat and lowered his head, not daring to look into Gu Mingming's eyes. A tinge of pink crept up his ears as he added, I was worried that you would feel heartache if you saw them. Gu Mingming chuckled and said, Children have to grow up eventually. I am willing to do anything for them, but I can't help them grow up. Gu Mingming tilted her head and smiled. Burke only saw it from the corner of his eye and felt as though countless flowers had bloomed in his heart. The entire world seemed to have faded away and only that faint smiling face was left in his eyes. Burke was later brought away by the 3 little ones. He himself staggered as though his soul had flown away. Leah hugged Gu Mingming jealously in his arms and rested his chin on the top of her head. Looking at Burke walking away, he said unhappily, How long has it been since you spoke to me so gently? This Burke, TSK, just kill him. Gu Mingming pinched Leah and said, He is just a pawn being used. He is already pitiful enough to be embroiled in the dispute between us and Cole. Moreover, he is Xianhu's master after all. Leah snorted heavily through his nose. He reached out to carry Gu Mingming, but Elvis beat him to it. Seeing Gu Mingming being carried in Elvis's arms, Leah felt irritated for no reason. He bared his teeth at Elvis, revealing an angry and aggressive expression. Gu Mingming was taken aback. Elvis had always been the one carrying her around at home. Other than the few days when Elvis was seriously injured and Leah acted as her legs, Elvis had always been her exclusive driver. Leah had never had any objections, so why today? Elvis's expression was stern and his face was extremely black. He pinched Lee's head with his large hand and frowned with anger. Are you trying to challenge my authority as the first partner? Leah was stunned. He looked into Elvis's eyes and his expression froze. After a long while, he finally composed himself and used his hand to brush Elvis's wrist away. Then he rubbed his temples and said, "Sorry, I was wrong." Elvis also kept the anger and murderous intent off his face. He did not say a word and just carried Gu Mingming away. Meanwhile, Leah did not chase after them. After walking for a distance, Gu Mingming saw that Elvis still did not look too good, so she asked, "Are you still angry?" Elvis shook his head. "I'm not angry, I'm just a little worried. Lee's condition is not normal." Gu Mingming recalled Lee's ferocious expression and nodded. Maybe Cole's matter had annoyed him too much and he was under a lot of pressure, so he could not control his emotions. "Don't take it to heart." Elvis sighed and said, "I hope so. But Xiaoming, there's something you need to know." Gu Mingming asked with a single syllable. Elvis said, "In a family, the first partner's authority is absolute. This was the only way to provide the best living environment for the females. Although we only have 2 males in our family, we cannot break the rules. I can accept your preference for Leah, but I will never allow him to challenge the authority of the first partner. If there is a next time, I won't forgive him so easily." Actually, Gu Mingming did not really understand what family authority was. They were a family. Wasn't it better to talk things through? Chapter 680. Gu Mingming cupped Elvis's face with both hands and kissed his chin. With a gentle gaze she said, "It's not that serious, don't mind it too much." Elvis straightened Gu Mingming's body and said, "If the authority of the first partner is challenged, the other family members will become restless and everyone will want to replace her. In this way, the scheming within the family will become more and more intense, followed by deception, bewitchment and even coercion towards females. This kind of thing is a great threat to the family, the tribe and even the entire beast world." Gu Mingming was taken aback. She had never thought that the matter would be so serious. But Elvis's worries were not groundless. She did not know what the scheming between males would be like, but she had at least watched empresses in the palace, and desire for the golden branch. Women could do anything for the position of empress. Based on the blind love and stubbornness of males towards females in the beast world, they would only be crazier than the women in those television dramas. If all the males in a family were thinking of how to overthrow the first partner and replace her, then the family would fall apart sooner or later. If all the families in a tribe were like that, then the tribe would disappear in the torrent of time without the need for external enemies. If the entire beast world was filled with such families, what kind of a Azura scene would that be? If she was not the messenger of the beast deity, perhaps such a situation would not matter. But she was the messenger of the beast deity who was the center of attention. If there was a situation where other partners challenged the first partner in her family, what kind of crazy butterfly effect would be created? Just look at how the 16 valued females, the first beauty of the tribe, imitated her to learn how to be gentle, kind and interact with others. Gu Mingming nodded and said, "I know, I will talk to Leah and ask him not to do such things in the future." Elvis kissed Gu Mingming's little face and said in a hoarse voice, "I don't want to do anything that will make you sad, unless it is for your safety." Gu Mingming leaned into Elvis's arms, her little face leaning against his chest. She listened to his heartbeat beating against her heart, finally reaching the same frequency. Chuckling, Gu Mingming rubbed against him and said, "I know you love me and I also know Leah won't hurt me. Don't worry, that won't happen." Elvis sighed softly, "I hope so." That night, Gu Mingming slept in the tree hole. Elvis held her little hand tightly and sat sideways at the edge of the tree hole. He used his chest as her pillow and his tail as her blanket. He secretly released a small amount of beast pressure to chase away all the mosquitoes nearby so that she could sleep more peacefully. That night, Leah did not return. No one knew where he had gone. The next morning when Gu Mingming woke up, her 3 sons were lying obediently by her side. The unconscious Qixian was lying docilely in her arms, as if he was just sleeping. Leah was preparing breakfast, acting as if yesterday's unpleasantness had never happened. Elvis called Burke to one side and instructed him to take care of Gu Mingming. This made Gu Mingming rather surprised. He actually allowed her to spend time with Burke alone? She thought that he would definitely follow them. Chapter 681. In the dense forest, the trees were so tall that the tops could not be seen. The layers of tree crowns were like overlapping green clouds, blocking out most of the sunlight. Several light beams shone through the gaps between the leaves, adding a mystical aura to the forest, as if there would be elves peeking out from behind the trees at any time, flapping their cicada-like wings and shuttling between the spots of light. Burke carried Gu Mingming on his shoulder, then climbed up a tree fork in his human form. Gu Mingming estimated that the tree was about 3 meters tall, about 1.5 stories high. Sitting there, she could clearly see the situation under the tree, but unless it was a deliberate attack, the battle below would not affect Gu Mingming. Burke sat beside Gu Mingming, his expression a little uneasy. His eyes were fixed on the 3 little ones who were already hiding under the tree, but he could not help but sneak a few glances at Gu Mingming's reaction. It was Gu Mingming's first time participating in the children's hunt. Although she was just a VIP spectator, it did not stop Gu Mingming's heart from surging with excitement. It was the same feeling as watching a child participate in a cultural performance. She wanted to shake the stranger beside her and say, "Look, the most handsome boy on stage is my son." Everything was ready. After the 3 little ones exchanged glances, Jianghu ran into the depths of the forest alone. Gu Mingming frowned, worry written all over her face. Her son was not even a year old, it was always worrying for him to run into such a dangerous place alone. Burke had been observing Gu Mingming's reaction. Seeing her frown, he understood her worry and wanted to pat her shoulder, but was afraid that he would be too presumptuous, so he lowered his voice and said, "Don't worry, Jianghu is very smart, he will be fine." Well, that was not wrong. She understood the logic, but that did not stop her from worrying. Gu Mingming's eyes alternated between Xianhu and Huda. She realized that her 2 sons' expressions were focused and calm. They were confident in their strategy and even more confident in their brothers. Gu Mingming knew that she had to learn to trust her children. Even if they were not even a year old, they would still be at the age of being pushed in a baby carriage and nibbling on a pacifier in the modern world. But here they were youths who had already turned into half-beasts. Because of her protective nature, she had already received training later than other children. If she continued to protect her children under her wings like an old hen, how would they survive in the future? Pursing her thin lips into a straight line, Gu Mingming grabbed onto the tree branch below her but tightly, fixing herself on the branch to prevent herself from losing control and jumping down, ruining her son's training. Not long after, Gu Mingming heard the sound of wild beasts running. She turned her head sharply and indeed saw Jianghu's shadow. He was in beast form now and his fur color was not as black as Elvis's. It was the color of the coffee and he looked more like a husky. No matter how much it resembled a pet dog, Gu Mingming deeply felt the difference between a dog and a wolf. Chapter 682. Running into the middle of the encirclement, Jianghu suddenly braked and turned around, baring his fangs at the pursuing jackal. The jackal did not mind, after all he was more than twice the size of Jianghu. Some saliva dripped down from the corners of his mouth. He had clearly decided that Jianghu was just a delicious piece of meat on his plate. But when Xianhu and Huda slowly walked out of the thicket and surrounded him in a triangular formation, the expression on the jackal's face began to change. It only took a few breaths' time for him to go from a sure win to a panicky one. The jackal started to circle around the encirclement, looking for an opening to break through, but the 3 young ones were clearly in sync, controlling the distance between them perfectly without a single flaw. And it was also at this time that the jackal realized that his companions were no longer chasing after Jianghu with him. Although the 3 young ones were only half-orcs, an orc with his full aura could still win against a wild beast, not to mention 3 against 1? That was simply the level of crushing and hanging him up. She did not know if it was because of the good chemistry between twin brothers, or because of the effects of Burke's recent training. The 3 young ones' attacks were flawless. This was not because Gu Mingming was blinded by motherly love. She had Snake's memories in her body, and although she had only casually killed a few stray beasts during the stray beast attack, there was still a lot of battle information in Snake's memories, so her evaluation was very high. Although young, the 3 young ones were already showing their brilliance. Gu Mingming focused all her attention on the 3 young ones fighting with the jackal, and could not help but cheer a few times, but to not disturb her son's performance, Gu Mingming resisted the urge. If everything went according to plan, the 3 young ones should be able to end the battle quickly. But perhaps because his mother was watching, Xianhu's performance was a little too aggressive. He was too eager to prove his own growth, so under the circumstances where the time was not ripe, he rashly launched the final attack on the jackal. The jackal was on the brink of death, and in a situation where it would die if it did not fight, it was much more ferocious than usual. Xuanhuan's attack didn't bite the jackal's throat. Instead, the jackal dodged half a step and bit its muscular chest. He realized that he had made a mistake in his attack and wanted to immediately let go and retreat, but the jackal did not give him the chance and bit the back of Xianhu's neck. Gu Mingming panicked. If the jackal retracted its teeth, Xianhu's spine would be bitten off and he would die immediately. Just as she was about to jump down to save her son, Borg held her back and stopped her. Before Gu Mingming could even glare at Burke, she saw Jiaoyu pouncing behind the jackal and biting the root of his tail. With a snap, the tail was forcefully ripped off. The jackal howled in pain and heaved a sigh of relief. Kanwu took the opportunity to retreat. Shaking his head, he adjusted his rhythm and pounced on the jackal again. He gave up on the throat and pounced on the jackal's back, biting his spine. Gu Mingming heaved a sigh of relief. Did this lad learn from Elvis or Leah? An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Give him a taste of his own medicine. Chapter 683. In the end, Kanwu still managed to bite off the jackal's neck. With his mouth full of blood, he tossed the jackal's head aside and transformed into a human. He looked like a clean 6-year-old boy. Looking up, he stared at Gu Mingming with his azure blue eyes, as if he was a child who had scored 80 marks in a test and did not know whether his mother would praise or criticize him. He was at a loss and at a loss. Burke jumped down from the tree and opened his arms to catch Gu Mingming. Elvis had instructed him not to let Gu Mingming jump down from a high place. Although she had Snake's regenerative abilities and could recover by herself even if she fell, it did not mean that she would not be in pain. Gu Mingming was heartless and only had her son in her eyes. So she jumped down without hesitation. Burke caught hold of Gu Mingming steadily. He was in a daze when he saw her jump down from the tree. Her trust in him made him feel very happy. Even though she did not even look at him out of the corner of her eyes, he still felt very satisfied. What Burke did not know was that Gu Mingming was the legendary boldness of a skilled person. She did not believe that Burke would catch her, but she knew that nothing would happen to her if she jumped down. Flipping down from Burke's body, Gu Mingming hugged Kanwu and gave him a big kiss. Kanwu, come, open your mouth and let Mummy see your teeth. Kanwu did not understand and obediently opened his mouth wide for Mummy to check. Gu Mingming poked at his clean, white teeth with her finger to ensure that none of them were loose. Then she pushed Kanwu's chin closed and kissed him on his round little face. Our Kanwu's teeth are really good. It's effortless for him to bite through such hard things. Mummy's teeth are not as good as yours. I can only eat softer things. Kanwu reached out his little hand and imitated Gu Mingming to touch his own teeth. Then he stared intently at Gu Mingming's smiling face. After hesitating for a moment, he reached out his meaty little hand to poke Gu Mingming's front teeth. Mummy's teeth are also very good. They are neat and beautiful. You are a female and do not need to bite hard things. I will leave the best parts of my prey for Mummy to eat. Gu Mingming was so touched that she wanted to cry. She hugged Kanwu and kissed him left and right. Even when her son's face turned red, she still refused to let go. Jiaoyu came forward and raised his little face to ask, Mummy, was my performance not great? Why do you only praise Wu? Gu Mingming pulled Jiaoyu into her arms and planted a few kisses on his face. How is it not great? You don't even know how excited and nervous I was when I saw you lure that jackal over by yourself. My eyes automatically gave you a 50-cent special effect. Jiaoyu asked, what 50-cent special effect? Gu Mingming thought for a while and said, it's like using a kitchen knife to chop an electric wire, with sparks and lightning along the way. He's so handsome. Huda carried Qixin back into his arms and walked in front of Gu Mingming in a mature manner. He poked Kanwu's little head and said, your performance today was not perfect. I hope you won't make such a mistake again in the future. Gu Mingming was taken aback. Was the post-battle summary already? Shouldn't Borg be the one doing this? What? Was Huda the combat class representative? Chapter 684. Huda did not continue to scold Kanwu. He hugged Qixin with one hand and patted Kanwu's shoulder with the other. I believe you. With that, Huda walked to Gu Mingming and handed Qixin over to her. Then he and Jiaoyu carried the jackal towards the water source, probably to clean up their prey. Kanwu walked up to Borg, raised his head and said, Master, let's go as well. The smell of blood here is too strong, it will attract other wild beasts. Besides, Mom doesn't like the smell of blood. Burke nodded, then looked at Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming was taken aback. She then understood that Burke wanted her to decide where to go next. The status of the female was very high. As long as the female was around, the males didn't even have the right to decide where to eat. Gu Mingming placed her hand on Kanwu's shoulder and pulled her son back into her arms. Let's go there. I saw a patch of grass on the way here. It's suitable for a picnic. Burke smiled and nodded, following behind Gu Mingming quietly. He felt a kind of blissful trance, just like the colorful bubbles in the summer, so beautiful that it was unreal. He didn't even dare to speak, fearing that the bubble would burst if he did. The everlasting green grass was tender, making people feel relaxed and happy. Gu Mingming stretched lazily before sitting on the ground. Cam was stayed by Gu Mingming's side the entire time, his azure blue eyes looking at Gu Mingming from time to time. Thinking about how Gu Mingming praised him just now, he could not help but feel very happy and satisfied. Burke sat an arm's length away from Gu Mingming. He glanced sideways at Gu Mingming and her son getting along so easily and happily. His gaze was gentle. He didn't know that females could be like this. When Huda and Jiaoyu returned, they had a jackal's hide and many pieces of meat that were not neatly cut. Gu Mingming smiled and opened her arms to welcome her two sons back. Jiaoyu pounced into Gu Mingming's arms and looked at her with his deep amber eyes. "Mummy, look, this is the beast skin that Huda and I tanned." Gu Mingming took over the beast skin and unfolded it to take a look. It was basically unusable. But Gu Mingming still smiled gently and said, "Yeah, it's really not bad. I think it could be spread over the table as a tablecloth. Or hang it at the door as a curtain, what do you think?" Jiaoyu shook his head and said, "No. I'm going to save it and put it on the bottom of Mom's bed during the winter." Making the bed is also possible, but why the lowest layer? Gu Mingming tilted her head and asked. Jiaoyu chuckled and said, "A jackal's skin is not the best and softest. It is uncomfortable when it sticks to the skin. That's why we have to put it on the lowest level to keep it warm. That way we'll be happy." Gu Mingming was extremely touched. She hugged her son in her arms and kissed him. "All right, when the time comes, let's place this skin on the lowest layer and sleep on the bed together, all right?" Jiaoyu blushed and took a step back, saying, "Mother, we have already grown up, we cannot sleep on the same bed with you anymore. You also know that your males are not normal. They might bite us to death." Gu Mingming facepalmed. Her own males were actually mentally ill in her son's heart. What should she do? How despairing. Sighing, Gu Mingming said, "No, they won't do anything that would make me sad. So don't worry, all right?" Jiaoyu smiled and kissed Gu Mingming's cheek. "We also won't do anything that would make things difficult for Mother. So we will learn to be independent and not let your males find excuses to go crazy." Aside from the topic, today was the last day of February. That monthly ticket would expire tomorrow. How about, give it to me, and also we will have a major update in March. I am still waiting for the editor to inform me about the exact time. I am crazily saving chapters, hoping to make my babies happy by then. Chapter 685. Gu Mingming and Burke brought the four little ones for a picnic on the grassland. Although there was only one jackal and it was not enough for the wolf pups to fill their stomachs, there was still an adult Burke. This bit of meat was too little for them, but it was hunted by their sons alone, so it was enough to show their sincerity. Burke started a fire and placed the meat the children had prepared on the fire to roast. The few of them got along well, chatting and laughing. In the distance, a black and a white shadow quietly watched the person over there, but they couldn't get any closer. Mingming must have known they were here, because she had already turned back to smile at them several times. With Burke's abilities, although they had purposely sealed off their beast pressure, Burke would still sense their aura if they got any closer. Elvis frowned, his gaze deep and cold. How long do you think Mingming will have to interact with Burke like this before Cole makes his move? Leah sighed and shook his head. It's hard to say. From afar, Burke delivered a piece of roasted meat to Gu Mingming. They were too far away and Gu Mingming could not hear what he said, but Gu Mingming gladly received the skewer and even smiled at Burke. Leah pinched the tree trunk with his hand and with a crack, he crushed a piece of the tree trunk, leaving a comminuted wound on the body of the tree. The jackal's meat is sour and hard. Mingming's stomach will feel uncomfortable if she eats it. Leah said and walked forward, intending to bring Gu Mingming back. Elvis held onto Lee's shoulder and pulled him back. This is Mingming's decision, we have to obey. Leah turned back and sneered. Aren't you afraid that Burke, who looks so much like you, Jean, will become the third male in our family? Elvis frowned. Looking at how gentle and quiet Gu Mingming was beside Burke, his chest felt like it was being blocked by cotton. He could not retract the murderous intent in his eyes, but he still nodded with much difficulty. If Mingming likes it, I can accept it. Leah flung Elvis's hand away and said coldly, You can, but I can't. Mingming already has the abilities of a beast king, and is no longer an ordinary female who needs many powerful partners to protect her. Therefore, I will not allow another person in our family to compete with me. Never. With that, Leah strode towards Gu Mingming. Elvis shot forward and blocked in front of Leah. With a cold face, he said, Neither you nor I have the right to stop Mingming from mating with a male she likes. Just as you said, Mingming is the messenger of the beast deity, she has the right to get all the males she likes in this world. Leah raised his head and stared at Elvis coldly. Did you hear what Maya said this morning? Elvis frowned and did not reply, but that flash of darkness proved that Li's guess was right. In the morning, when Burke brought Gu Mingming and the 4 little ones away, they happened to pass by Maya's temporary residence. She said to her partner, "Burke is coincidentally a wolf beast too. From the looks of it, I thought he was Gu Mingming's partner and the father of the little wolves." Waving his tail, Leah said, "Are you really willing to let him replace your position by Mingming's side?" Elvis narrowed his eyes and gave off a dangerous aura. He gritted his teeth and said, "He can't replace me. I am Xiaomeng's first partner." Digression. The first greeting in March. Babies, good morning. Chapter 686. Leah sneered and said, "If you want to hold on to the title of first partner, you can hold on to it yourself. I'm just a partner who climbed up from a beast pet. I don't need that good reputation, I only want Mingming." With that, Leah transformed into a fox and found an opening to dash past Elvis's arms, heading straight for Gu Mingming. Elvis's brows were tightly furrowed as he watched Leah run off. Actually, Leah was right. He was just as jealous, about to go crazy, and wanted to dash over to take Gu Mingming away. Moreover, the magnanimity of the first partner did not seem to be that important, or else, how could Leah easily find an opening to create trouble in front of him? Sighing, Elvis followed Leah with large strides, heading towards Gu Mingming. Leah had already circled Gu Mingming in his arms, his furry large tail replacing Qixuan's position, occupying Gu Mingming's embrace. Huda carried Qixin in his arms and looked helplessly at Leah, who was staring at Burke while being intimate with Gu Mingming. He pulled Jianghu and Xuanhuan along helplessly. "Let's go eat over there." Jianghu and Xuanhuan looked at Gu Mingming helplessly and shook their heads. They did not say a word and followed Huda to the fire pit to start sharing the roasted meat. When Elvis walked over, he saw Leah hugging Gu Mingming, kissing and rubbing against her, as if he was replacing the lingering smell of Burke on Gu Mingming's body. Burke stood 3 steps away, quietly watching Leah act coquettishly towards Gu Mingming and Gu Mingming's unprincipled acceptance. He would be lying if he said he was not envious. Elvis took Gu Mingming from Li's arms and turned to look at Burke. "Thank you for taking care of Xiaomeng for the entire morning. We are here to bring her home for lunch." Burke's gaze landed on the roasted meat that Gu Mingming had only eaten 2 mouthfuls before Leah dashed out and sent it flying. He felt a little disappointed but did not have the right to stop him. He could only nod without saying a word. Elvis carried Gu Mingming and turned to leave. When Leah walked past Burke, he chuckled and said, "The injuries on your back are almost healed. Do you intend to let the wolf pups hunt you and eat ready-made food?" Burke did not say a word and just quietly watched Gu Mingming's receding figure. A red glow flashed across Li's eyes, but it disappeared in an instant. He smiled, a smile like a flower on a high mountain. When Gu Mingming had walked far enough and could no longer hear his words, Leah then said, "No matter what his motive is for you to get close to Gu Mingming, I will not let you succeed. Keep Xuanhuan on your good side. If one day he discovers your true colors and falls out with you, I will let you get to know Saint Nazir's witch Dr. Leah again." With that, Leah flew out and chased after Elvis and Gu Mingming. "Mingming, I stewed a bird for you today. Mingming, did you miss me this morning?" "Mingming, call me Daddy." Leah. Burke stood at his original spot, not moving an inch. He quietly watched as Gu Mingming disappeared into the horizon, before slowly relaxing his tightly clenched fists. What was that person's purpose? Even Berg himself had no idea what was going on. He could feel that that person was not purely helping him pursue Gu Mingming. He must have an ulterior motive. Chapter 687. Back at his tree hole, Leah didn't start cooking. Instead, he laid on Gu Mingming's knees and looked up at her. "I don't like Burke. I hate it when he uses Xuanhuan to get close to you with a face similar to Jean's." Gu Mingming cupped Li's face and kissed the tip of his nose. Then she smiled and said, "It's impossible for Burke and I to be together. You know very well that I'm just acting according to Cole's script, to lure him out and get rid of him." Leah held the back of Gu Mingming's head with one hand, not allowing her to escape easily. He deepened the kiss in a domineering and lingering way. His misty eyes were filled with infatuation as he licked his lips, satisfied with the sweetness that belonged to her between his teeth. This made him feel much better, but he could not let go of the matter regarding Burke. "Even if we don't follow Cole's script, he will still appear." After the kiss, Leah became much gentler. His voice was soft but firm. "I can't stand the sight of you standing together with Burke. It's too glaring. I won't be able to resist tearing him apart." Gu Mingming looked at Leah with an indescribable feeling. Leah had been behaving strangely these few days. He seemed to be very stubborn and jealous. It was hard to understand why he would bare his teeth at Elvis and show an aggressive expression just because he wanted to hug her. After all, he had taken the risk of losing her to push her into Elvis's arms. Gu Mingming caressed Li's face. Is there something on your mind? I feel that you've been acting weird recently. Li placed his hand over Gu Mingming's. His long and narrow eyes were filled with affection. He gazed at Gu Mingming. Wanting to possess you is all that's on my mind. So, are you going to fulfill my wish? Gu Mingming chuckled. She wrapped her arms around Li's neck. You don't have to. I'm yours. Li chuckled devilishly. He whispered into Gu Mingming's left ear. I mean, monopolize. Gu Mingming was taken aback. She instinctively looked at Elvis. She frowned in rebuke. Leah. Leah smiled awkwardly and leaned back, increasing the distance between them. He sighed softly and said, Now, you're not even willing to lie to me? Gu Mingming was helpless. She did not know what was wrong with Leah. Why was he fighting with Burke? He was clearly on good terms with Elvis in the past, and he was also able to handle Snake with ease. Leah had never seen Oriton and Ian around her before, so why was Burke having such a special honor that made him so jealous? Leah brushed his hands and said, It's fine if it's Elvis, but the others can't. If you go out alone with Berg again, I'll dispose of him as a rival in love. Gu Mingming felt helpless. Although she felt that she would definitely be able to touch Cole if she followed Burke's lead, but if the men at home really minded, she could only do it. Shrugging his shoulders, he said, all right, don't be so nervous over an unrelated person. If you really don't like him, I won't interact with Burke anymore. We'll think of another way to deal with Cole. Anyway, even if we let him off, he won't let us off. So, there will always be another way. Leah hooked Gu Mingming's chin and kissed her on the lips as a reward. Then he said gently, Good girl. Chapter 688. After giving up on the plan of using Burke to lure Cole out, there was no need for the tribesmen to continue recuperating on the spot. Oriton and Ian arranged everything according to plan, and the next morning, everyone was ready to set off towards St. Nazir under Gu Mingming's command. Burke would invite Gu Mingming to accompany the three Canwu brothers to hunt with him every morning, but Gu Mingming never agreed. Every time she would just reply with, You guys go, I'm not going. She did not even have an excuse to avoid it. But even so, Burke still insisted on appearing before Gu Mingming every morning, telling her roughly where he would be training the Canwu brothers that day, what kind of ferocious beasts they would encounter, and what kind of heroic performances the children might have. At the start, Gu Mingming rejected all of them. But to Gu Mingming, participating in the children's progress was not a small temptation. But every time she was almost convinced by Burke and wanted to tag along, Leah would suddenly jump out and pull Gu Mingming into his arms, before baring his fangs at Burke to threaten him. Sometimes he would attack with his claws and sometimes he would whip Burke with his large tail. Burke was like a block of wood, he did not retaliate or get angry after being hit. Gu Mingming knew that this was a process all males had to go through when wooing a female. Before obtaining the female's approval to become a member of the family, a single male who approached a female's territory would naturally be treated as an intruder and chased away. There could only be three outcomes. Either the wooer was so strong that the original partner could not do anything to him, or the original partner was so strong that the wooer would be chased away or even killed, or the female would be touched and accept the wooer as her partner. Only the three aforementioned scenarios could end this conflict. Burke was a third-level beast like Leah. Although he was not at his peak condition and might not be Lee's match, he was not completely helpless. But he just stood there and let himself be beaten, so that he could put on a submissive attitude so that they could get along better after becoming a family. Gu Mingming sighed. It seemed like Burke was serious about her. With this understanding, whenever Burke came to invite her, Gu Mingming would just avoid him. In order to prevent Leah, who was like fire and water with Burke due to his recent jealousy, from accidentally killing Burke, Gu Mingming would pester Leah to hug her so that Elvis could reject Burke's invitation. The team with 18 females moved as slow as a snail. 5 days later they finally arrived near St. Nazir. Tidy up and rest. Elvis carried Gu Mingming in his arms, raised his hand and gave his orders. These 4 simple words sounded like an imperial edict that couldn't be defied. Everyone could only submit to him. Burke walked over again. This was his second time looking for Gu Mingming today. Chapter 689. The concept of a graduation ceremony. Gu Mingming was actually very tempted. The children had been training persistently every day. These few days they did not even come back for dinner and ate their own prey with Burke. This made Gu Mingming very upset, as if her children had been snatched away. But she did not want to forcefully tie the children to her side. Their intelligence did not match their age. They had the ability to judge and know who they wanted to be with. Leah walked up and grabbed Burke's neck. His long fingernails grew out at a speed visible to the naked eye and pinched into the flesh on Burke's neck. Blood trickled down and dripped onto the ground along Burke's neck. "Get lost quietly before I kill you." Burke was not afraid. He looked at Gu Mingming calmly, completely disregarding Li's threat. His attitude successfully infuriated Leah. Li's fingers tightened around Burke's throat like an iron clamp, tightening inch by inch. Burke's face was flushed red and his eyes were bloodshot. But he still clenched his fists tightly, resisting his instincts to escape and retaliate. Escaping was equivalent to giving up. As for retaliating, even if Gu Mingming accepted him, she would never be able to get along well with Leah in the future. Gu Mingming liked Leah so much he could not offend him. Gu Mingming hurriedly jumped down from Elvis's arms and crashed into Li's. With her back facing Burke, she did not even spare him a glance. She looked up at Leah with her clear eyes and said, "I want a hug." Leah lowered his head and met Gu Mingming's coquettish look. His malevolent aura gradually dissipated and his hands slowly returned to his own, transforming into fox claws before reverting back to human hands. The blood stains on them were all gone and they were clean and spotless, as if they had never been stained with blood. Carrying Gu Mingming, he turned and left without even giving Burke a glance. After walking for a long distance, so far that even with Gu Mingming's hearing, she could not hear any news from her tribesmen. Leah then found a tree to lean against in satisfaction. He circled Gu Mingming in his arms and slowly closed his eyes. Li's large tail was wrapped around Gu Mingming's waist. The side of her face was pressed against his chest while his chin rested gently on the top of her head. "I feel like I'm losing more and more control over my emotions." Li's voice was filled with fatigue and a tinge of helplessness as he said, "You are becoming more and more important to me every day. My tolerance towards other males who try to get close to you is getting lower and lower by the day. If this goes on, I really can't guarantee that I won't be able to hold back when Borg comes to invite you again." Gu Mingming also felt the recent changes in Leah. Although he no longer showed any aggressive expressions towards Elvis, she could always see Li's resentful look when Elvis hugged her. That was why she had been unwilling to accept two partners from the start. Not everyone could enjoy the happiness of having multiple partners. Gu Mingming knew that she had lost out to Leah and Elvis in the world of relationships. So even though she knew that Leah was not in a good mood recently, she could not criticize him or even abandon him like other females. Chapter 690. Your gentleness will only make me more greedy. Leah hugged Gu Mingming even tighter. The tiredness on his face was washed away by his helpless doting towards her. Many a time it was not that males were not jealous, but because they were afraid of being abandoned they suppressed their jealousy. If Gu Mingming had directly warned him that, "If you continue like this I will abandon you," perhaps he would not have dared to show such obvious hostility towards Gu Mingming's suitors. But what could he do? Gu Mingming had never lost her temper at him even once. Only when he was about to lose control and kill someone would she coquettishly bring him away to calm him down. This tacit and even conniving attitude made him so infatuated with her. It was an indescribable sense of superiority, as if telling every suitor of Gu Mingming, "As long as I don't die, you will always be my slave." Gu Mingming chuckled. "You are jealous because you care about me. Do you want me to lose my temper because of your concern?" Leah asked. "If I really kill Burke, won't you be angry?" Gu Mingming thought about it. "I might be a little angry." Leah frowned. "What? Are you touched by Burke? What happened to your ruthlessness towards me in the past? Why are you so soft-hearted towards Burke?" Gu Mingming looked up and poked Li's head. "What are you saying?" "What I mean is that Burke is a member of Saint Nazir. Didn't you and Elvis set the rule long ago that the people of Saint Nazir will not kill their own people? If you break this rule because I did not give you a sense of security, I might be a little angry at myself." Leah was taken aback. He pulled Gu Mingming back into his arms and continued to press his chin against Gu Mingming's head. "Gu Mingming, after we capture Cole and wake Qixian up, let's go find the kiss of the ocean." Gu Mingming froze. She frowned and looked down. Her voice was trembling. "You know about the kiss of the ocean?" Leah was so sensitive. How could he not notice Gu Mingming's strange behavior? He held Gu Mingming's shoulders and looked at her sparkling eyes. "My father once told me that the kiss of the ocean is the essence of the ocean. It can cleanse and contain everything. So I was thinking if we could find it, maybe we could wash Snake's poison off your body so we could mate." Gu Mingming nodded stiffly, instinctively avoiding Li's eyes. Leah lifted Gu Mingming's chin with his well-defined fingers, not allowing her to avoid his gaze. With a probing gaze he asked, "What are you worried about? Tell me." Gu Mingming bit her lower lip and shook her head. "Nothing." Leah did not speak for a long while and just hugged Gu Mingming in his arms. He sighed and said, "I know you are hiding it, but I don't dare to pursue. What should I do? This feeling seems to be more unbearable than Berg's pursuit of you. I want to know the truth, but I also feel that the truth might torture me to the point of insanity." Gu Mingming did not say anything and just hugged Leah back gently. Until Leah had already fallen asleep, she then said softly, "Don't worry, I won't leave you guys." This sentence made Leah feel as though he was struck by lightning. His entire body froze. Chapter 691. At that time she said that Snake knew the way to transmigrate back to her original world, but she did not listen. She told Snake not to say it. She said she did not want to know, she did not want to go back. But now she had inherited all of Snake's memories. And in all of these memories, other than the endless loneliness, it also included that method. His mind felt like it was exploding. Leah felt countless thoughts churning in his head, but he suddenly could not grasp anything. Other than hugging Gu Mingming even tighter, he actually had no other way to ensure that she would not leave. After a long while, he stood up shakily and said, "Let's go back, Elvis will be anxious." Yeah. Gu Mingming did not refute and let Leah carry her back to their original spot. When they returned, Burke had already been sent away by Elvis. Leah placed Gu Mingming back into Elvis's arms. Seeing how Elvis was using one hand to support Gu Mingming's little butt, while Gu Mingming was leaning her head on Elvis's shoulder with a troubled look, Leah felt uneasy for no reason. He grabbed Elvis's hand that was hanging by his side and placed it on Gu Mingming's back, then pressed it down tightly. His eyes were filled with unease as he exhorted, "Hug her tightly, hug her tightly." Elvis did not understand and looked at Leah in confusion, asking, "What's wrong?" These few days, Lee's emotions were not normal, openly and secretly snatching Xiaoming away from him. He would never let go when he could hug her. Why did he push Xiaoming back into his arms today? Leah shook his head and said, "Ming Ming is hungry, I will go hunt." Before Elvis could say anything else, Leah had already transformed into a fox and ran away. It was just hunting. Did he need to transform into his original form? Elvis looked in the direction that Leah disappeared in a daze, but did not say anything else. He just lowered his head to look at Gu Mingming, who was obviously not in a good mood, and asked, "Did you quarrel with Leah?" Gu Mingming shook her head but did not say anything. Elvis patted Gu Mingming's little head lightly and said, "Leah is becoming more and more out of control recently. If he made you angry, he will definitely be more upset than you. How about this, when he comes back I'll teach him a lesson for you. Don't be so depressed, okay?" Gu Mingming looked up and pursed her lips. After hesitating for a moment, she still opened her mouth and said, "Elvis, ever since I inherited Snake's ability, I have never done that with you. Do you hate me?" Elvis's heart skipped a beat. Gu Mingming remembered that she had inherited Snake's abilities. But what Elvis remembered was the scene where Gu Mingming was almost killed by Ellie because of his incompetence. He would always remember the day when Snake appeared in front of him carrying a badly mutilated Gu Mingming. She was so badly injured that she was on the brink of death, and he could not even stand up to carry her. How weak. Those two words were like a knife that constantly tortured his heart. He had to become stronger in order to protect her. And now she had become a little poisonous person that he could not touch. Was it not because he was too weak to protect her? Blame her? Why should he blame her? He was thankful that she hadn't abandoned him because of his incompetence. Chapter 692. For some reason, Elvis's heart skipped a beat. If he found the heart of the ocean, he would be able to press Gu Mingming under his body and love her fiercely like before. What an exciting piece of news. He never dared to mention this matter, but it did not mean that he did not desire it. It was just that this desire was always accompanied by a strong sense of guilt, causing him to be intimidated and never mention it again. But Gu Mingming's was like a meteorite falling from the sky, directly smashing into Elvis's chest. The instant impact made him unable to feel any pain, but suffocating and painful. He sealed Gu Mingming's lips with a kiss. He did not want to hear her, but they kissed for a long time, lingering with unease. Only after Elvis had sucked all the air out of her lungs did he slowly release her lips. He pressed his forehead against hers lightly and panted deeply. His warm breath landed on the tip of her nose and his blue eyes were filled with desire. His Adam's apple bobbed slightly, and when he opened his mouth again, his voice was full of hoarseness, hitting against her heart with every word. Gu Mingming's eyes were filled with longing, and her Adam's apple bobbed slightly. When he opened his mouth again, his voice was full of hoarseness, hitting against her heart with every word. Xiaoming, I love you. This was the secret signal that Gu Mingming told Elvis when they were mating. If he needed comfort, companionship, if he needed her, he would tell her, Xiaoming, I love you. Her males were just that smart and sensitive. Gu Mingming believed that even though she did not finish her sentence, her two males understood what the kiss of the ocean meant. Although it was equivalent to their blissful sex life, it was also equivalent to activating the gears of fate and pushing the doors of time and space. So they both chose to become her soul partners. Even if they had no sex for the rest of their lives, they did not want to take the risk of losing her. If there was anything in this world that they did not even have the courage to challenge, it would probably be Gu Mingming. The fire had been burning for a long time. Oriton, who always shared meals with them on time, had already brought back the hunted animals and prepared them. But Leah, who had gone out to hunt, had not returned yet. Gu Mingming was a little worried but did not know what to do. She turned to look at Ian, who was resting on a tree branch with his eyes closed. She hesitated for a moment before saying, Ian, can I trouble you to help me look for Leah? Ian lowered his head and looked at Gu Mingming with disdain. Won't he be back after you twist his ear? Gu Mingming was stunned for a moment, not understanding what Ian meant. Ian didn't explain further. He impatiently snorted but still flapped his wings and flew out. Gu Mingming had not been in the kitchen for a long time. After all, Lee's culinary skills were so much better than hers. But Leah was not around today and Oriton was not her male. He had already provided the prey by sharing the meal, there was no reason for him to be the cook. As for Elvis, Gu Mingming felt that his cooking might be even more poisonous than snake venom. Chapter 693. Strangely, it was already sunset but Leah did not return. Ian, who went to look for him, did not return either. Even the three young ones and Burke, who were supposed to report back at this time every day, did not return. The disappearance of these few people caused the original journey to be delayed again. Gu Mingming vaguely felt that something was wrong and felt uneasy. Hubby, why don't we go take a look? Gu Mingming looked at Elvis and said. Elvis nodded and carried Gu Mingming in his arms. He did not know what happened to Ian and did not care why Burke and the three young ones did not return. But Lee's absence was a very serious problem. With Lee's personality of wanting nothing more than to stick with Gu Mingming, even if he heard Gu Mingming's but and escaped, he would not roll back without sorting out his thoughts for the entire afternoon. If Leah left Gu Mingming, he would either be dead or kidnapped. Gu Mingming would be heartbroken no matter which outcome it was. So Elvis's expression was very solemn. He had to find Leah. With that thought, Elvis transformed into his beast form and threw Gu Mingming onto his back. Gu Mingming knew that Elvis's sense of smell and hearing were the most sensitive when he was in his beast form. So without a word, she laid on Elvis's back and let him gallop into the darkness. The wind whistled beside their ears. It was clearly a warm season but Gu Mingming felt a chill. Her fingers seemed to be unable to withstand the blood. Her fingertips were white and cold. They galloped across the horizon under the hazy moonlight. Elvis and Gu Mingming used all their senses to search for even the slightest trace of them in the darkness. And when Elvis and Gu Mingming finally found Leah, they only saw him covered in blood and with bloodshot eyes. He was fully armed with his claws and fangs, looking very much like Naruto Uzumaki in Naruto. Like an Asura crawling out from hell, he trampled all the bones into a red spider lily. He seemed to have discovered Gu Mingming and Elvis, but he just stood there and stared at them. He did not move and his eyes were bloodshot. And beside Lee's feet, there was a gray wolf with its skin torn and flesh torn, for young ones covered in blood and an eagle owl with its wings folded in a strange posture. Gu Mingming was so shocked that she could not speak. She covered her mouth and did not know what to do. Elvis transformed into his human form and shielded Gu Mingming behind him. He frowned, glared and clenched his fists. He gritted his teeth and said, Xiaoming, I'm sorry. I might have to do something to make you sad. Before Gu Mingming could react to what was happening, she saw Elvis charging towards Leah. Without any hesitation, Elvis's claws went straight for Lee's heart. But Leah seemed to be prepared for it. With a tilt of his body, he easily dodged Elvis's attack. At the same time, he opened his mouth and bit Elvis's arm with all his might. Elvis felt the pain and retracted his arm with all his might. Then he used his other hand to hit the back of Lee's neck. Leah loosened his grip abruptly and Elvis's palm landed directly on his forearm. With a crack, it was the sound of bones breaking. Elvis's hand drooped down like a pendulum, followed by a deafening howl of a wolf. Leah pounced forward and bit Elvis's throat. His eyes shone with a murderous glint as if he wanted to kill him. Out of topic. On the first day of March I unexpectedly caved. This is a miraculous coincidence. You have to believe that I did not do it on purpose. Just like that, March was still very beautiful. Chapter 694. No. Gu Mingming roared and ran over immediately. Gu Mingming successfully attracted Li's attention. He was stunned for half a second before he pushed Elvis away and ran towards Gu Mingming. Then he carried Gu Mingming on his shoulders and sprinted in the opposite direction. Gu Mingming almost vomited from Li's jolts, but she did not stop his craziness. After running for an entire night, when the sun rose the next morning, they were already in an extremely dense forest. Leah gradually slowed down his footsteps and looked around in a daze. With furrowed brows, he placed Gu Mingming down from his shoulders. Looking at her pale face, his brows furrowed in heartache. Pursing his lips, Leah could not open his mouth to explain. How could he explain? He started drugging Elvis 7 days ago and made use of Elvis's absolute trust in him to weaken Elvis's body unknowingly so that he could not unleash his 5th-level orc powers last night so that he could steal her away? Her eyesight was so good, she must have clearly seen his despicable face yesterday. Now what could he say to her? Gu Mingming leaned against a huge tree that required 5 to 6 people to hold hands and slowly sat down. She heaved a sigh of relief and looked up at Leah. Smiling, she asked, "Not running anymore?" Leah nodded slightly and did not say a word. He just quietly waited for Gu Mingming to question and blame him. "But, the next time you want to go on such a long journey, can you turn into your original form and carry me while running? My stomach feels so uncomfortable carrying you on my shoulders." "Leah?" Gu Mingming looked up and saw Li's shocked and confused gaze. She chuckled and said, "After running for an entire night, I am hungry and thirsty. Aren't you going to prepare something for me to eat?" Leah opened his mouth, but the words he wanted to say were stuck in his throat. After a few twists and turns, they finally condensed into one. Leah looked around and saw a fruit tree not far away. The fruits on the tree were plump and moist. He quickly walked over and plucked 2 of them. Wiping them on his beast-skin skirt, he passed them to Gu Mingming and said, "Eat this first to fill your stomach. I will go hunting later and make more delicious food for you." Gu Mingming took the fruits and smiled with her eyebrows arched. She said, I didn't expect to be able to eat peaches here." "Bitch?" Leah asked softly. Gu Mingming nodded and said, "We had this thing at our previous place too, but it was not as big as this one." Gu Mingming took a bite. It was moist and the juice was sweet. She squinted her eyes in satisfaction and passed the other peach to Leah. "Oh, delicious. Here's one for you." Leah shook his head and just looked at Gu Mingming quietly. He was thinking if he had been a little more selfish back then and let go of all the hatred and revenge earlier, when Mingming wanted to give him her one, he would have brought her away like now and hidden her in the deep forest, never letting the messenger of the beast deity appear. Then, would she not have to experience all that pain and torture, and could she have avoided all these years of wandering from place to place? Just like now, she would smile sweetly at a fruit and share one for him to taste. Leah pushed the peach back into Gu Mingming's arms, then planted a light kiss on her forehead. "Mingming, I love you. Mingming, I'm sorry." Chapter 695. Leah was taken aback. He shook his head and said, "I will never abandon you." Gu Mingming nodded in satisfaction. She took another bite of the peach and said, "Usually saying sorry after saying I love you is to break up with you. If you have no intention of abandoning me, then don't give me such a combination punch or else I will misunderstand." Leah did not expect Gu Mingming to have such a reaction. He could not understand her trick at that moment. After hesitating for a long while, Leah asked carefully, "Aren't you angry?" Gu Mingming had already finished the first peach. The peach pit was quite big and Gu Mingming kept it in her pocket. Then she looked up at Leah and said, "Why should I be angry? Because you kidnapped me to go on a honeymoon and spend some alone time with me?" From the story that Gu Mingming told Sandy in the past, Leah understood what a honeymoon was and what it meant to spend some alone time. In a certain sense it was true. Leah nodded blankly, agreeing with Gu Mingming's words. Gu Mingming chuckled and patted Li's shoulder. She said, "You were so smug yesterday. Elvis will not let you off easily when we return. It's good that he is the first partner to maintain order in the family. As for me, since I'm out I'll just enjoy myself. Leah thought that Gu Mingming would make a fuss with him, punish him or even kill him. But he never expected Gu Mingming to have such an attitude. Pursing his lips, Leah tried to ask, "What if I say we're not going back?" Gu Mingming chuckled and touched the black wolf mark on her collarbone. She said, "You'd better think about how you're going to deal with the aftermath when Elvis comes looking for you." Leah did not say anything. He just kissed Gu Mingming's forehead and said, "All right, before he comes looking for us, let's go on a honeymoon and enjoy some alone time." Gu Mingming nodded and took a big bite of the second peach. Saint Nazir was probably in a mess now. But Gu Mingming believed that Leah would not do anything to hurt her. There must be a reason for everything he did. But since he refused to say, she would not ask. What she could do was to give him absolute trust and not repeat the mistake of Nina's incident. There must be no more misunderstandings between them. For the next 3 days, Gu Mingming and Leah lived the same life as when they were dating. Every day, Leah would bring Gu Mingming around as if they were on a sightseeing tour, accompanying her to watch the stars, the moon and the sunrise. Hunt for her, cook for her, shelter for her. Gu Mingming did not ask what had happened that night or what they were doing now. She also never mentioned returning to Saint Nazir. On the other hand, Leah was immersed in this happiness day after day. The malevolence from that night no longer appeared on his face. It was a quiet and strange night. Gu Mingming slept beside the bonfire while Leah used his chest to make a bed for her. His furry large tail covered Gu Mingming's body gently. Looking at her sleeping face, he could not help but frown. Crunch crunch. There was the sound of footsteps stepping on the withered leaves that had fallen to the ground. Step by step it approached slowly. Chapter 696. Looks like she doesn't like the beast pet I prepared for her. Cole stood a distance away from the fire and stared at Gu Mingming's sleeping face without hiding, as if he was looking at something that belonged to him. He chuckled and said with a perverted pampering, "That's right, she always has good taste. In this world only I am worthy of her liking." Leah gently retracted his hand from Gu Mingming's neck and slowly stood up. He faced Cole with a blank and lifeless gaze. "You are indeed the 9th highness blessed by the beast deity. You actually managed to snatch Agu away from that wolf." In a flash, Cole appeared in front of Leah at a speed that was almost as fast as teleportation. He grabbed his neck harshly and smiled, "You no longer have any value to live. Die in peace, 9th brother." Cole retracted his fingers slowly and decisively. His gaze was cold and the corners of his lips curved upwards. Lee's suffocating and dying look was so pleasing to his eyes. Suddenly Cole felt a sharp pain in his chest. He looked down in disbelief at the sharp claws that had pierced into his chest. His battle instincts reacted faster than his brain. He swung the hand that was holding Lee's neck violently and threw Leah away. Leah rolled one round on the ground and then slid far away. But he still stood firmly on the ground and did not fall down pathetically. Looking at the blood stains on his hands, Leah smiled enchantingly like a ghost. He waved his tail and said, "Long time no see, my dear second brother." "You." Cole was stunned for a moment but quickly recovered. He chuckled and said, "You cured me of my poison?" Leah looked as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world and said in disdain, "You overestimate yourself by using poison in front of a witch doctor." Cole narrowed his eyes and laughed coldly without caring about the wound on his chest. He said, "It doesn't matter. So what if you cured me of my poison? You are just a 3rd-level orc and I am Cole at the peak of 5th level. As long as I kill you and replace you, everything will be over." Leah raised his brows and replied coldly, "Oh? Don't you regret not being able to see Mingming kill me with her own hands?" Cole gave a low laugh and said, "I thought that Agu would kill you in anger after seeing you kill Burke and hurt those 4 wolf pups and Elvis. I'm really looking forward to seeing your expression when you die in the hands of the female you love. Unfortunately, Agu seems to really like you. You made such a big mistake but she didn't even scold you. So I've changed my mind. Killing you is a small matter. I'll do it myself." With that, Cole suddenly charged towards Leah with a cold and sinister murderous aura. The difference in level was absolute. Although Cole was missing a tail and an arm, he could already easily control his balance and use his missing arm to make some compensatory attacks after these few days of practice. So when he attacked Leah head-on, the difference in their levels caused Lee's heart to be under immense pressure. He felt as though he was about to explode from suffocation. Instinctively, he gave in and knelt down, but there was another reason for him to fight against this instinct. His long and narrow eyes were filled with determination and cruelty. Leah slammed his palms on the ground and used the force to jump up. Aside from the topic, Cole, I heard that there are people calling me out in the comments section? Yeah, I'm out now. So, you wicked people, are you happy? Gu Mingming, if you die, everyone should be even happier. Cole, if it's what you want to see, I'm willing to sacrifice my life for you. But, are you willing to let your handsome and adorable son die with me? Gu Mingming gritted her teeth. Chapter 697. Li's legs accurately locked onto Cole's waist and both his hands were under Cole's armpits to restrain his hands. His large tail was wrapped around Cole's neck and his entire body was like a rope, restraining Cole firmly. Cole jerked his head backwards and hit Li's nose heavily. Blood spurted out from his nose but Lia did not care at all. He tightened his tail and was determined to kill Cole. Cole narrowed his dangerous eyes and looked at Gu Mingming, who was still sleeping by the bonfire. He laughed coldly and released his 5th-level beast pressure, forcefully shaking Lia off his body. Li's entire body was pressed into the ground and he could not even lift his head. It was as if every inch of his bones had been smashed into pieces. A mouthful of blood spurted out from his mouth, but there was a sly smile on his face. Li's chest tightened and his eyes became unfocused for a moment. What did you do? Cole reacted instantly and grabbed onto Li's neck to interrogate him. Lia had suffered serious internal injuries. He coughed and spat out a mouthful of blood. Although he was clearly weak, he had a victorious smile on his face. Hand over Xianxuan's antidote and I will tell you how to cure your poison. Cole held his forehead and chuckled coldly. Half of his face was hidden in the darkness and he exuded a sinister and terrifying aura. As long as I replace your position by Agu's side, do I still need to be afraid of any poison? Cole slowly pulled Lia closer to him. His smile was twisted and sinister. Don't you know that Snake's tier of the beast deity is immune to all poisons? As long as I mate with her once, what poison can't I cure? Lia snorted without backing down. Seems like you don't know much about the tier of the beast deity. Cole loosened his grip and threw Lia to the side. He squatted down and used his beast pressure to suppress Lia. What do you mean? Lia spat out the blood and saliva in his mouth. Then he placed one hand on the ground and the other on his chest. Gu Mingming's entire body is now filled with poison. If you mate with her, you will be poisoned to death. Cole laughed coldly and said, Ninth Highness, your lying skills are too bad. If she can't mate, how did you leave your mark on her ear? Li's gaze was cold and filled with disdain. So what if I'm lying? Do you think you still have the ability to force her today? Cole frowned in disapproval and said, I did not force her back then, all the more I won't force her now. I just want to take your place. Lia frowned and clenched his fists tightly. Cole's current expression was far uglier and more twisted than when he had banished him back then, but he could not find the anger and hatred he had back then. Unclenching his fists, Lia shook his head in disdain. I have already given you a chance. It would have been great if you had obediently handed over Xianxuan's antidote. At least, your corpse would have been intact. Cole did not have the time to understand Li's words. His battle instincts made his body react immediately. His legs sprang backward and he ran far away. Lia was no longer at his original spot and was replaced by Elvis, who was emitting a murderous aura. Your hand? Cole was stunned. Chapter 698. Elvis and Cole were fighting. The destructive power of a 5th-level beast was equivalent to the effect of an atomic bomb being dropped on Hiroshima. Lia was not in the mood to watch the fight. He quickly retreated to Gu Mingming's side to protect her. But when he arrived he realized, Gu Mingming had long woken up, but she remained in a lying position without moving. Mingming, Gu Mingming then propped herself up and smiled at Lia. Can I wake up now? Lia nodded and said, You know everything? Gu Mingming reached out to support Lia. Are you an idiot? You knew he would come today but you still drugged me during dinner? Lia gave a bitter smile. Although you are extremely powerful now, I still want to do my best to protect you. Gu Mingming sighed in exasperation. I could have just done it myself but you just had to injure yourself all over. Lia shook his head. He hugged Gu Mingming gently. If I didn't injure myself, how could I coax you into forgiving me for acting on my own? Bam. With a loud crash, a huge crater was formed beside Gu Mingming. Turning her head, she saw Cole embedded into the ground by an external force. Meanwhile, Elvis was stepping on his shoulder with one foot, looking down at him from above. He was like a death god who ruled over all living beings, coldly watching over life and death in the world. Gu Mingming stood up and walked to Elvis. She hugged him gently and kissed his chin. It was a greeting after these few days of separation. Then she leaned against Elvis's chest. Looking at Cole, she said, "Hand over Xianxuan's antidote and I will let you go." Cole looked up at Gu Mingming. There was a destructive fervor in his eyes. He wiped the blood from the side of his mouth. Maintaining a smile that he thought was elegant, he said to Gu Mingming, "Ah Gu, do you think I am a coward who is afraid of death?" Gu Mingming was expressionless. "I don't care if you are afraid of death. I just don't want to dirty my hubby's hands. So, give me the antidote and get lost. Don't ever let me see you again." Cole did not seem to be affected by Gu Mingming's words at all. No matter how sharp her words were, he looked as if he was enjoying listening to her sweet words. He replied, "If you are willing to leave with me not just the antidote, I can even give you the entire beast world." Gu Mingming chuckled and squatted down to get closer to Cole. "You know, I inherited Snake's memories. In his inherited memories, there were many ways to torture people. I can easily make you suffer, but I won't let you die. Do you want to try?" Cole opened his chest and smiled dotingly. "It is my honor that Agu wants to torture me. I will seriously enjoy every bit of your love and accept all the torture you give me." Gu Mingming was disgusted. She was really disgusted. Cole was totally a perverted and twisted masochist now, with a come and whip me look. Every word he said was disgusting. Gu Mingming took a step back. Her face was filled with disgust and disgust. Cole smiled triumphantly. "Ha, so Agu can't bear to bully me." Chapter 699. Gu Mingming glanced at him and asked, "What do you want?" It was the most ideal condition to be able to negotiate. She did not mind if Elvis really killed Cole, but she did mind if Cole was the only one who knew how to save Qixian. Kiss of the ocean, love of the sky, soul of the forest, heart of the desert and spirit of the rocky cliffs. Gu Mingming's face darkened with every word Cole said. By the time he said the last word, Gu Mingming's entire face had turned as black as ink. Cole chuckled and stretched out 3 fingers. "Be my female and stay by my side forever. I will give you everything in this world. Find the things I want and give them to me, or let that little wolf cub sleep forever, neither alive nor dead. Which will you choose?" Gu Mingming clenched her fists tightly and glared at Cole. Her chest heaved up and down violently as traces of the Beast King's aura leaked out uncontrollably from her body. Elvis quickly retreated to Gu Mingming's side and hugged her tightly, not caring about Cole's life or death. "Xiaoming, don't be agitated. Leave it to Leah and me." Elvis's voice reverberated in Gu Mingming's ears for a while, soothing her emotions like a warm spring. Slowly releasing her tightly clenched fists, Gu Mingming looked at Cole coldly and said, "I will find these 5 things for you. But if you dare to go back on your words, I guarantee that you will suffer a fate worse than death." With that, Gu Mingming turned to leave. Elvis looked at Cole and ignored him. He just carried Leah and chased after Gu Mingming. Cole laid on the ground weakly and coughed out a laugh. Blood trickled down from the corner of his mouth and he casually wiped it away. Looking at Gu Mingming's back, his gaze was filled with a strong desire to win. He murmured softly, "In the end you will still stay by my side. Why did you have to go through so much trouble?" Elvis had already arranged for most of the troops to return to St. Nazaire to settle down. Lee's injuries were very serious and he was not suited for a long journey. So Gu Mingming and the rest were not in a hurry to rush back. They just found a cave to stay temporarily and let Leah recuperate. The fire made the cave very dry. Gu Mingming sat by the fire and looked at Leah, who was lying on the hay with a guilty look, and Elvis, who was sitting beside Leah with his head lowered and not saying a word. With a snap, Gu Mingming broke the firewood with her bare hands and threw it into the fire. This crisp sound scared the 2 males so much that they shivered. "Are you going to tell me yourself, or do you want me to ask?" Elvis suddenly raised his head and took a step forward. He was the one who came up with the idea. "I was only in charge of beating people up." Gu Mingming raised her eyebrows and sneered, "He's really quick at shifting the blame." Leah forced himself to sit up on the bed and trembled as if he was about to die. He coughed twice and said in a weak voice, "Mingming, it's all my fault, cough cough cough. If you want to blame someone, blame me." Gu Mingming gave them a smirk like a wife, and said, "Looks like in the years before I came the rapport you two had developed included this?" The first plan had been seen through. Elvis sat back on the bed awkwardly and Leah also laid back down obediently. There was a visual effect of pressing a rewind button, as if they had returned to 3 minutes ago. Snap. Gu Mingming broke another piece of firewood and threw it into the fire. Her gentle voice had a sinister threat. "Leniency for those who confess, severity for those who resist, all." Chapter 700. The mastermind behind that stray beast attack was Cole. Elvis said. Gu Mingming nodded and said, I know, it was to pave the way for Burke to stay by my side. Didn't we already guess this long ago? Elvis shook his head and said, Cole wanted us to think this way, so he purposely left his scent on Burke. But in actual fact, Cole's real motive was to test your abilities and to drug Leah. Cole knew that Gu Mingming had inherited Snake's abilities, so it was understandable for him to use stray beasts to test her, but what the hell was he doing to drug Leah? Leah propped his body up and leaned against the wall. Although he was not as weak as he had acted just now, the battle with Cole had indeed taken a huge toll on him and he was very weak. Even his voice sounded a little weak and floaty, sounding very weak. That day after you released your beast pressure, everyone fainted. It was at that time that Cole placed a medicinal bug in Forget-Me's ear. Gu Mingming frowned and asked, What medicinal worm? Leah said, An ancient secret skill passed down in the Snow Fox tribe. It can disturb a person's mind, allowing them to be guided and controlled by the worm master. Leah looked at Gu Mingming's concerned gaze and smiled very gently and blissfully. He was satisfied with Gu Mingming's concern for him, and also satisfied with her caring. This kind of worm is very difficult to rear, it must be soaked in a special medicine from birth. Only the tribe leader knows the formula of this medicine. Although the witch doctor has the antidote, as the illness is a slow process of amplifying one's original emotions, under normal circumstances, the person who is drugged will not notice the change, and the surrounding people will only think that the person who was drugged was agitated by something and became very anxious. No one will care why a male becomes like this, everyone will just distance themselves from him and abandon him. Leah chuckled as if he was talking about someone else's matter. Gu Mingming sighed and asked, Then when did you realize that you had been drugged? Leah pretended to ponder and said, Probably, it was when I first showed jealousy towards Elvis. A slow process of amplifying one's original emotions? Gu Mingming lowered her head, so Leah had always been jealous of Elvis? Jealous that he was the first partner and could hug her at any time? Or was she envious that although he didn't get along well with the wolf pups, he still had his own offspring? As for Leah, although he had the title of partner, other than the mark on her ear, she did not seem to have given him anything else that could make him feel at ease. Leah seemed to understand Gu Mingming's first emotion. He waved at her and said, My body is weak now so I can't go over. Then, can you come over and let me hug you? Gu Mingming looked up at Leah. Leah smiled exceptionally gently. If I hug you, I won't feel as much pain from my injuries. Gu Mingming stood up and did not say anything. She just walked to Leah obediently and leaned into his arms carefully, letting him hug her. Chapter 701. Gu Mingming didn't know how to reply, so she just listened quietly. Leah held the back of her head and kissed her lips. It was a very light and gentle kiss. That pair of long and narrow eyes stared deeply into Gu Mingming's eyes as he said gently, But the jealousy you gave me made me feel very happy. Thump, thump, Gu Mingming's heart was beating rapidly. They had already been together for almost a year, but she still felt seduced when Leah was so close to her and said such passionate words of love. Leah pecked Gu Mingming's little mouth lightly before placing her on his chest. He continued, So, when I became hostile towards Elvis because of this jealousy, I realized that I might have fallen into his trap. Later on, I realized that every time Burke appeared in front of me, the jealousy and distortion in my heart would be triggered uncontrollably. At that moment, I was already certain that I had been poisoned by Cole. Why didn't you tell me? Gu Mingming's heart ached a little. A person needed the company of his family the most when he was sick, but she didn't seem to have done anything when he was sick. She just jumped into Cole's trap like an idiot while thinking that she could capture Cole. Leah rested his chin on the top of Gu Mingming's head and chuckled. Silly girl, do you think I would tell you all these and let you spend more time on Cole? I'm not stupid, why would I allow another male to occupy my female's thoughts? Gu Mingming was rendered speechless by Lee's twisted logic. She retracted her arms from his waist and rubbed her face against his chest. Then she asked, So you decided to beat me at my own game and not detoxify the bug poison? Leah chuckled. You guessed half right. Gu Mingming looked up and asked, Which half? Leah replied, Beating me at my own game was the right thing to do, but I already detoxified the bug poison. I'm not crazy, why would I let Cole keep holding onto my lifeline? Gu Mingming heaved a sigh of relief and smiled. You're smart. Leah raised his chin proudly and smiled smugly. Of course, I am the male of the messenger of the beast deity. Gu Mingming could not help but laugh at Lee's teasing. She suddenly recalled the proud look he had when he stood on the platform of the deity's punishment and announced to the world that he was her beast pet. Her heart warmed up to the max. Leah continued, Cole instigated Burke to use Xianhu and the rest as a breakthrough point to get close to you. His motive was never to seduce you, but to stimulate the worm in my body, so that my emotions would rapidly fluctuate. Huh. Gu Mingming was a little surprised. She had thought that Cole had sent Burke to her because of her. In the end, it was actually because of Leah? Leah played with Mingming's little hand and said, ever since he used the name Yu Jin to come to Sauter, it was destined that I would pay extra attention to him. Cole had purposely left many obvious marks on his body in order to make me pay attention to him. This is a kind of psychological hint, always feeling that he will snatch you away. So using him to stimulate the bug poison is the most effective. Gu Mingming frowned and asked, so ever since Burke joined St. Nazir, Cole had been scheming to use the bug poison to kill you? Chapter 702. Die in my hands? Gu Mingming was taken aback. He wants me to believe that you hurt Huda and his brothers so that I will lose control and kill you? Leah shook his head and chuckled. Then it would be too easy for me to die. After all, dying in the hands of my own female is a form of happiness to a certain extent. It would be much better than dying in Cole's hands. Gu Mingming frowned. Then? Leah said, Cole's bug drug mainly stimulates my jealousy. When a person's jealousy reaches its peak, it will definitely give rise to possessiveness. He predicted that I would kidnap you and hide you. But he did not expect that you would immediately return to their side after seeing me injuring the 4 little ones and Elvis. Gu Mingming frowned. She could not wrap her head around Lee's words and did not understand what he meant. Leah chuckled. He rubbed Gu Mingming's head. If you saw your sons and Elvis injured and killed me on impulse, that would just be the price I pay for my wrongdoings. But Cole wants you to abandon me. He placed Elvis, Huda and his brothers and many other insignificant factors on one end of the scale. On the other end there is only me who had lost my mind and imprisoned you. He wants you to abandon me for Elvis and your children. You know, being abandoned is the real torture for a male. Of course I, who was controlled by the bug drug, would definitely not let you go. I would do anything to keep you by my side. I would even threaten you and hurt you. In the end you would not be able to tolerate it. Kill me and return to Elvis. As Leah spoke, he gently stroked Gu Mingming's stray hair. He chuckled. Now that I think about it, I'm really a little scared. What if you were really angry with me? One look from you is enough to kill me. Gu Mingming pinched Lee's waist gently. Now you know fear? Why didn't you inform me earlier? I could have cooperated with you guys. Ouch ouch, it's so painful. Leah magnified his own weakness by several times and looked at Gu Mingming pitifully. He bit his lower lip and looked as if he was being defiled by someone. He said tearfully, Are you trying to murder your husband? Gu Mingming rolled her eyes and said, Yes, I should just strangle you to death. Leah pulled Gu Mingming back into his arms and whispered into her ear, If you really want to strangle me to death, go ahead. I'll do whatever you want as long as you like it. Gu Mingming snorted and did not reply. Leah said, I am speaking the truth. If you want me to die, I will fulfill your wish. If you want me to live, I will protect you. My life and death, fortune and disaster, all depend on a word of yours. Lee's voice was soft, like a feather gently brushing past Gu Mingming's heart. Gu Mingming's temper was appeased by him and she cleared her throat. Don't try to bluff your way out of this. I'm asking, why didn't you tell me beforehand? Leah kissed Gu Mingming's temple and said, Because. I also want to know, will you choose me? Or, will you abandon me? Gu Mingming was stunned. She looked up at Leah and asked, Aren't you afraid that I can't control myself and accidentally kill you? Leah chuckled and said, If you trust me, this situation wouldn't have happened. You will know that even if I am crazy, I will not do anything to hurt you. If I don't even have this level of trust in your heart, then I might as well die. Aside from the topic, the truth of the matter has been explained. Those little baddies who suspect that Leah wanted to hurt Elvis and Gu Mingming, leave a comment saying that you love me. If you say you love me, I will forgive you then. Today's update has ended. See you tomorrow. You're tuning in to the Sword Dance in the Vast Sky YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.